Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Peter Murphy begins now.
Good evening. One of Tasmania's last remaining major sports has been shut down, with a ban on racing coming into effect immediately. It was part of more restrictions announced late today to try and prevent the spread of coronavirus. Enforcement of the social distancing and isolation rules has been bolstered as well, with Defence Force personnel stepping into duty across the state.
A different type of deployment for members of our Defence Force, joining the frontline effort against the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, assisting Tasmania Police and the SES with compliance checks.
They are here to help the police, they are here to help our effort, and they act under the direction of the State Controller.
The Premier telling Tasmanians there's no reason for alarm as we see an increase of personnel in uniform on patrol and turning up at people's properties. He says they don't have the powers to arrest people for non-compliance.
These are more arms and legs on the ground, helping us with our activities. And I want to be absolutely clear, because this has been raised a couple of times, there will be soldiers in uniforms, but they will not carry arms on Tasmanian soil.
Yesterday, Tasmania recorded 2 new cases, one in the southern region and one in the north. Another positive test was confirmed overnight, taking the total to 72.
Both had recently arrived in Tasmania from overseas and were already in self-quarantine. With regards to the other case that was found positive overnight, further details of that will be provided in due course once we've had the opportunity to investigate those circumstances.
And our team will be getting histories from that person and identifying where they've been and their contacts.
4 patients are in hospital while 13 have fully recovered. The source of 2 cases in Devonport is still unknown.
Nor do we have any links between the 2 cases. So we've really reached the point where we have to regard these 2 cases as having an unknown source of infection.
With community transmission unable to be ruled out, Labor is calling for more people to be tested.
If we don't expand the testing, then we're missing an opportunity to be able to track and trace everybody who could have been in contact with somebody who's had coronavirus, because people can be carriers of this virus and not feel unwell.
In an effort to prevent the spread, the Premier announced more restrictions this afternoon. Despite precautions taken by the racing industry in recent weeks, now greyhound and horse racing is immediately banned for at least 4 weeks, the government flagging an assistance package. From 6 p.m. tomorrow, betting stores have to close, garage sales are banned, and sex work won't be allowed. Farmers markets can continue, if for the purpose of selling fresh produce to use at home, but food stalls and vans can't operate. And as many Tasmanians use their free time for home repairs, hardware stores have been given the all clear for now.
If I utilise Bunnings as an example, they have taken strict measures in terms of social distancing within their stores.
But other restrictions on retail are set to be discussed at National Cabinet tomorrow night. Ebony Ablett, 7 Tasmania News.
And there's also a public health alert at the moment involving more than a dozen local businesses and tourism sites. 2 interstate visitors extensively toured Tasmania, but on their return home were diagnosed with coronavirus. For many of the stops, the 14-day danger period has already passed. Ruby Kamain explains better.
The 2 people were part of an organised tour across Tasmania last month. Public Health says it's now become clear they had coronavirus during at least part of the tour, although they weren't aware of it until diagnosed when they returned home. Their visit started with a stay at the Hobart Travelodge 3 weeks ago. On Friday the 13th, they caught a Grey Line bus to the Port Arthur Historic Site and went on a boat tour while there. The next day, they visited sites across Hobart. In the morning, the Female Factory and the Cascade Gardens in South Hobart. That afternoon, they caught the ferry to Mona and spent 3.5 hours at the museum. On Sunday the 15th, they took a cruise to Peppermint Bay. The next week started with a trip up the east coast, a visit to the Freycinet Marine Farm at Coles Bay and Kate's Berry Farm at Swansea. On Tuesday the 17th, they visited Bruny Island, taking a boat tour with Pennicott Wilderness Journeys. The following day, Hobart, back to the Female Factory and Grape at Salamanca. Then they travelled to Launceston, basing themselves at the Launceston Leisure Inn for the next 5 days. Friday included stops at Bridistow Lavender Farm, the Pine Garner Cheese Factory and Lee 65 Oysters in St Helens. And their final weekend included a Tamar River cruise, a trip to Cradle Mountain and a visit to Ashgrove. The advice from Public Health: anyone who overlapped with these movements should keep watch for symptoms.
We would ask to be very vigilant for symptoms in the 14 days after you're at that time or place, and if you have any such symptoms, you should ring the hotline or your general practitioner and stay at home until you've been given advice on what next to do.
Authorities say their state of origin isn't being released for privacy reasons.
A woman has been arrested for a COVID-related offence after a car was allegedly broken into near the Launceston General Hospital. Police were called to the area on Wednesday night, where the 23-year-old was charged with a string of offences, including not having a reasonable excuse to be away from her home. Police are reminding the public they will be strictly enforcing the new health measures. Tasmanians are being urged to organise their flu vaccinations as soon as possible, ahead of what's predicted to be a dangerous season. It's feared the looming influenza threat could leave people exposed to coronavirus as doctors brace for one of the busiest years in recent memory.
From the comfort of your car comes the newest way to receive a flu jab. The Launceston Medical Centre introducing the unprecedented drive-through measures as a response to coronavirus.
And that's mainly to practice social distancing and protecting not only our vulnerable people in the community but also our staff.
More than 5,000 patients at the centre rolled up their sleeves last year, but never like this. It's feared without the vaccination, immune systems will become vulnerable and the virus and influenza could form a deadly duo.
Well, the flu vaccine won't protect against the coronavirus, but it will stop you getting the flu. And what you don't want to get is the flu and the coronavirus.
Young children, pregnant women, the elderly, Indigenous Australians and people with chronic medical conditions are most at risk. All are being urged to line up for a free jab from next week.
Better to be vaccinated next week rather than next month.
When we're talking about it, everyone's potentially vulnerable to influenza.
GPs say they've already seen a number of influenza cases this year, months ahead of the dangerous winter season. The Health Minister has conceded the large majority of vaccines are yet to arrive on our shores, but is adamant there'll be no shortage.
We are working on that, and indeed last night we opened the ordering system to GPs to order the vaccination stocks, so they'll be distributed very soon.
Garth Burley, 7 Tasmanian News.
The virus outbreak's initial impacts on the Tasmanian real estate market are being felt, with Hobart recording a slight drop in property prices. A new CoreLogic report confirming a 0.2% decrease in average dwelling prices in March. But it wasn't enough of a hit to undo gains from the previous 12 months. Sale prices were still up by more than 4% year on year.
The global pandemic certainly is playing a big part in that, and people are very consumed by what's going on. We've had a very good market for a very long time, so I think we were all starting to wonder when it was going to actually peter out.
The rest of Tasmania recorded an increase in prices of around 1% during March. A local charity has launched an urgent call for community donations as more out-of-work Tasmanians access its services amid the pandemic. Hobart City Mission's emergency relief appeals seeking help to fund food packs, vouchers and extra support to meet the rising demand.
We're very aware that the people who are coming to us for help desperately need that help, and we're quite determined that we'll keep our doors open over the coming months at all times.
Bans on bulk buying at chain supermarkets also placing pressure for food supplies to the charity. Supermarket shelves are slowly filling back up as panic buying subsides across the state. A hiring blitz at the major chains has also saved hundreds from lining up for welfare.
The pasta has been plundered, the flour foraged, the sugar all snatched up. Now supermarket staff are finally seeing a reprieve after a relentless month.
We've done about 3 Christmases 3 weeks in a row, so a lot of work for our team.
A team that's had to grow. In Launceston alone, Coles has hired an extra 88 employees. Tina Mann-Shandon applied after she lost her job as a barista.
I submitted my application that night and then I got a call from Nick to say, can you come in the next day and start work?
Woolworths has recruited 100 more workers across the state, IGA outlets increased their numbers. Butcher Toby Wiggins found himself also needing more hands.
I've put on 2 extra people, and also one of the fellas that got laid off at the airport, he was working here casually, but now he's basically on here full time.
3 weeks ago, he cleared 300 kilos of mince in just 2 hours. Today, things are calmer. While some shelves remain empty, other products are now rolling in. Supermarkets are hopeful the strain will ease on the supply chain. Whether the army of extra workers can be sustained remains to be seen. Nobody knows what the new normal will be.
We have no idea what the next few weeks are going to look like. We're not sure if it's going to be a normal Easter. We're just playing it by day.
Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
An $8.5 million pandemic package has been approved by the City of Launceston. The recovery measures include a 6-month rate remission for eligible businesses, a zero rates increase over the coming financial year, and an accelerated capital works program. The package will be rolled out immediately. 2 people from Hobart's Eastern Shore remain in hospital tonight after sustaining serious injuries in a crash at Sandford yesterday afternoon. Police closed a section of South Arm Road for 4 hours after a vehicle collided with a raised drainage culvert and vegetation bank before rolling several times. A 61-year-old man and 32-year-old woman were transported to the Royal Hobart Hospital. Police say initial investigations have ruled out drugs and alcohol as factors in the crash.
Good evening. A high of 16 across Launceston and Devonport today. Burnie 17-15 at Hobart. 20 was the state's top today at Flinders Island. 18 across Smithton, Lowhead and Friendly Beaches. Lyowini 12. On the close-up, cloudy conditions over Tasmania. Further out, a cold front sits to the south of WA, bringing cloudy conditions into the Bight. Tomorrow shows a cold front crossing Tasmania during the evening, while the mainland experiences surface troughs and lows. West to northwesterly winds tomorrow 15 to 25 knots, swells up to 3 metres in the west and south and below 1 metre in the north. A strong wind warning is current for southeasterly winds from Tasman Island to southeast Cape and for western coastal waters from Low Rocky Point to Stanley. And a flood watch is current for northeastern and east coast river basins. Tomorrow's forecast now partly cloudy and 22 across Hobart and Campania. Huonville possible late showers. In the north, Launceston 20. Showers increasing in 19 about Devonport and Georgetown. Burnie and Wynyard tomorrow 18 and showers increasing. Strawn 21. 21 and partly cloudy across St Helens and Swansea, and Port Arthur looking mostly sunny. The UV forecast moderate statewide. Looking ahead to the 3-day forecast, Saturday showers easing about the southeast and northeast during the afternoon. Sunday showers easing from the northeast during the afternoon, and Monday showers about the west and south. Capital cities 24 and mostly sunny in Perth tomorrow. Sydney rain developing and showers increasing in Melbourne. And currently Hobart 15 rain clearing, Launceston 16 and Devonport rain clearing. That's all for weather tonight, Murph.
Thanks very much for that, Jackie. Now, before we leave you tonight, we have some breaking news. Public Health has confirmed 3 more cases of coronavirus today, bringing the state's total to 74. One of those was employed by a tour company that hosted 2 interstate visitors who travelled around Tasmania in March before being diagnosed with the disease when they returned home. I'm sure the Premier will have more information on those cases in his update tomorrow. That's all our news for now. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.